Imagine a February afternoon. Winter is starting to leave gently, giving way to softer air. It is the kind of day that makes you want to go out, breathe a little, and experience a small moment of adventure. That day was February 13th, 2017 in the United States. Two young girls, inseparable, like two sisters, were getting ready to live a day they would never forget. But unfortunately, not for good reasons. That day was a holiday. No school, no homework, just free time. The sky was clear, the weather was nice. A perfect day for a little outing. Abby had slept over at Libby's the night before. In the morning, they were full of energy and wanted to get moving. So they had an idea, to go explore a calm place far from the town. They asked Libby's older sister to take them to a spot in the forest, which is called Zone 300. It is a tranquil place, about 8 kilometers from the town, where people enjoy walking in nature. The plan was simple. Libby's father would come to pick them up at 3:30 p.m.
Around 1:30 p.m., the two friends were already there, ready to enjoy the afternoon. Zone 300 is a special place. It is a mix of dense forest and open spaces, with a river running through it. What makes this place famous is an old railway bridge. This bridge is made of wood and iron, built a long time ago. It is a relic of the past, but also a real danger. The bridge crosses the river and connects two hills, but it is in very bad condition and could collapse at any moment. Trains have not crossed it for a long time. There are signs that clearly forbid going there because it is very risky. For Abby and Libby, as for many teenagers, prohibitions are sometimes a challenge, especially with the desire to share their adventures on social networks. The girls were very active online, especially on Snapchat. They showed everything they did, every moment of their day. It was at that moment that things took a bad turn. Around 2:09 p.m., Libby posted a photo of Abby walking on that forbidden bridge.
This is the last image they shared with the world. The afternoon was drawing to a close, and worry was growing. At 3:15 p.m., Libby's father tried to call Abby to check if they were okay and heading toward the planned location, but Abby did not answer. Then he called Libby. Nothing. Looking at Snapchat, he saw the photo of Abby on the bridge. At first, he did not panic, thinking they were playing or that their phones were put away. But when he arrived on site and saw no one, a very strong fear overwhelmed him. He started shouting their names in the forest and called his wife, his daughter, and Libby's parents. No one knew where they were. The news spread quickly. The families rushed to Zone 300. 3 cars full of relatives arrived. They called out for Abby and Libby, shouting, their voices echoing in the forest. They searched for 2 hours relentlessly as night began to fall. In February, night falls quickly. Around 5:30 p.m., it was already dark. Faced with this difficult situation, the parents went to the police station, sad and in disbelief, to report their daughters missing. They gave the officers descriptions, photos, and the clothes the girls were wearing. The girls' phones, which had rung unanswered before, were now turned off. The police started searching right away, knowing that it was very serious. 2 minor teenagers had disappeared in an isolated place. Several teams left to search the forest, but the night made everything more complicated.
Helicopters and drones could not help in the darkness. The police asked the families to return home to rest and promised to resume the searches in the morning. But no one could really sleep. The families used social media, sharing photos of the girls and organizing volunteer groups to help with the searches. The next day, starting at sunrise, a large search operation began. Hundreds of volunteers from across the region joined the police. Entire buses brought these volunteers to the site. Helicopters, police dogs, and drones scanned the entire area. The hours passed, heavy with anguish and hope. Then, around 12:30 p.m. on February 14th, a terrifying discovery was made. A group of 12 volunteers, including a friend of Abby's grandfather, was walking near the river. They noticed something orange through the branches. One of the girls was wearing an orange outfit. Pushing the branches aside, they saw a horrible scene. The grandfather's friend first thought they were mannequins, as the bodies were so motionless, lying partly in the water and partly on the ground. Their skin was pale, almost blue. But it was indeed Abby and Libby. One was still dressed, the other was not. The group screamed in terror, breaking the silence of the forest. The police and forensic police quickly arrived on the scene. 24 hours later, investigators announced the sad news. Abby and Libby were dead.
Their bodies were examined to understand what had happened. For their families, everything fell apart. Abby, calm and studious, loved drawing and animals. Libby, full of energy, always made everyone around her laugh. Their only fault? Being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The first information showed that the bodies had been found on private property. Investigators became interested in the owner, a 77-year-old man named Logan. Logan had already had problems with the law, assault, aggression, and even kidnapping. He was arrested and became the main suspect. He said he was with friends at the time of the events, but his phone showed that he was indeed at home on his property when everything happened. Despite everything, after a month in prison and several interrogations, Logan, who was already very ill, was released in March 2017. Investigators did not have enough evidence to hold him. He died in 2020, and later it was confirmed that he was not linked to this case. The investigation, although paused, continued discreetly. 15 days after the discovery of the bodies, an important lead appeared. People exploring the same area found Libby's backpack, abandoned about 4 kilometers from where the bodies had been found. Inside the backpack, there was her cell phone, turned off, but very valuable for the investigation. Experts were able to recover data from Libby's phone. What they discovered overturned the investigation. The girls had filmed several videos in the forest. One could hear their laughter, their joy, but also, little by little, the anxiety.
In some sequences taken between 2:10 p.m. and 2:30 p.m., we understand that they felt followed. At one point, one of them speaks of a gun. The other, trying to reassure herself, thinks it might only be an illusion. But an even more chilling video was found. A man is seen following them. His head is down, his hands are in his pockets, and above all, his voice is heard. Calm, firm, disturbing. He tells them, "Get down from here." These discoveries were important. Thanks to the video and the sound recording, the investigators were able to create a sketch. A light-skinned, dark-haired man around 50 years old, measuring between 169 meters and 179 meters. Very quickly, the photo and the voice were made public. A call for witnesses was launched. 2 men came forward. The first, aged 28, claimed to have crossed paths with this man and the girls on the day of the tragedy. His precise description allowed for the creation of a second sketch. The second witness, in his 40s, also said he saw the 2 teenagers accompanied by this man. He provided details about their route. But despite these elements, the investigation stalled. The sketch circulated everywhere, but no name emerged. More than 50 suspects were interviewed. None really matched. The population was angry. Throughout the region, orange lights were hung in windows in tribute to the 2 young girls. A club was even created in their name. But between 2019 and 2022, nothing more happened. The case fell into oblivion, a cold case, and the families, they sank into despair.
It was at this moment, in September 2022, that a new face joined the unit. A detective from elsewhere, a specialist in unsolved cases. And for a reason he could not explain, something in Abby and Libby's file caught his attention. He dove into it. He reread everything, every line, every report, every sketch. And, on the 3rd day alone, he stumbled upon a monumental error, a detail that for years had escaped everyone. Among the testimonies, that of a man in his 40s, the second witness suddenly held his attention. His driver's license photo, provided at the time, it strangely resembled the composite sketch of the man seen with the girls, too much for it to be a coincidence. The detective then understood. This witness might not be a witness. What if he had testified to divert suspicion? This man was named Richard, and he was still living at the same address as he was at the time. The detective went there without delay. He summoned him to the station. Interrogation. The silence of the case had just been broken. Richard denied everything. Calm, almost cold, he repeated that he had nothing to hide. But this time, the detective felt it. His instinct screamed that he was on the right track. A search warrant was quickly obtained. Destination, Richard's house. And there, carefully hidden in a drawer, a firearm. Not just any firearm, a rare caliber. And above all, exactly the same as the bullet found in Abby's body. The proof was there, irrefutable. Richard was immediately arrested, handcuffed. He did not say another word.
On November 29, 2022, his trial finally opened. And this time, the silence was broken. All the details of the investigation became public, and what they revealed was chilling. The autopsy revealed the horror. Abby was killed by a bullet fired at point-blank range, a caliber so rare that it left no doubt. And the two girls had suffered atrocious wounds, their throats slit from ear to ear. A brutal execution. Savage, the Abby and Libby case was no longer a mystery. It became a waking nightmare. Richard Allen, born in 1972 in Mexico, an ordinary man, almost too ordinary, former military member, then became an accountant, then a supermarket manager, married, a family man, a discreet neighbor, a polite colleague. No one could have imagined what he was really hiding. But in prison, Richard started talking. Not officially, not during an interrogation. No, these were stolen confessions recorded without his knowledge in the quiet of a cell. And what he said is unbearable. He recounted that he was walking in the forest that day. He saw Abby and Libby, and then a dark thought crossed his mind. His intention: to assault them. You know what I mean. But just as he was preparing to act, a truck appeared in the distance. A noise, a presence, an unexpected event. Richard panicked. He lost control, and what should have been an assault became a brutal murder, an irreversible act, a savagery that defies understanding. Taken by panic, that is what he said. He was afraid the girls would scream, that they would call for help, that a witness would suddenly appear.
So he shot at one of them. Then he pulled out a knife and attacked both of them. When everything was finished, he tried to repair the horror. He redressed one of the victims, left the other as she was, and dragged the bodies to the water, thinking that this would erase the evidence. Back home, he told his wife that he had run into the girls, but what he had not anticipated was that she was the one who would encourage him to go to the police, to save face, to appear like an ordinary witness, to mask the atrocity. But once in front of the court, Richard denied everything. He claimed that he was not the perpetrator of the crime. His lawyers? Revoked, after accidentally disclosing unbearable photos of the scene. One more scandal in an already sordid case. Psychiatric experts were called to the stand. They stated that Richard suffers from mental disorders. But for the judge, that changed nothing. He was fully conscious of his actions. And in November 2024, justice fell like a blade. Richard Allen was found guilty of premeditated murder and assault. The sentence: 2 consecutive 65-year prison terms. A conviction that means one thing: he will never leave prison as a free man. The Abby and Libby case. A tragedy born in the heart of an ordinary afternoon, which became one of America's darkest nightmares. Today, justice has spoken, but for the families, there will never be a true end. Only memories, stifled laughter, photos frozen in time. 2 lives gone, 2 innocent victims of one man's madness. This story leaves us with a bitter lesson. Life is fragile, unpredictable, and yet in the shadow of grief, the strength of those who refuse to give up still shines. those who fight for the truth, even when hope seems to stop answering.